Puppy's trying to steal your gimmick! Continuing right from where we left off last week, the fairies had made their way to Kia Land to try and figure out a way to defeat the monster Cuddy. And it was rightfully a depressing scene as all of their friends and neighbors were trapped in crystals. Well, actually, Meryl was the mostly depressed one, but Prune pulled her through as she seemed to kind of be unfazed by all of this. Honestly, it was a good moment showing how supportive and steadfast of a friend she was, but I also can't help but think that Prune is also a little sociopathic and just doesn't mind being surrounded by essentially a bunch of corpses. Meanwhile, back with Uta, she was still sleeping. Wait, didn't she wake up at the end of the last episode to find Prune was gone? Is this taking place earlier than that, or did she just fall back asleep?
I don't know.
Anyway, the fairies made their way to their queen, who was the only one in the whole kingdom who could at least talk to them telepathically. They showed off their ribbon collection, which I'm sure some of this anime's viewing audience could recreate at home, and to those fathers who had to buy all of those, you have my pity. But yeah, Queenie went on to explain how the ribbons were actually shards of the big Kia ribbon that had kept Arkine's forces at bay across both their kingdom and the Precure's town.
Once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday!
I mean, okay, it's actually not that frustrating that Queenie is only telling us about this stuff now, but it is a little weird that she left out these details for no real reason too. Or was she just too focused on giving Prune a fro every other day? I mean, at the very least, she should have at least have told them that they needed more than 12 before the little fairy flew off to put their collection into the big broken ribbon, hoping that it'll save the day. Then again, maybe she just felt like trolling her a little more, which, to be fair, is entirely justified. That said, the real narrative reason they want Prune out of the room was so that the Queen and Marilyn could have a dramatic one-on-one talk where she revealed the actual effect of the Heart-Kianing lock. As it turned out, it could indeed grant the wishes of its user. However, there was a slight Faustian clause to all of it. Yeah, we know. You lose your humanity and end up becoming a space fruit god. We'll get back to these two later, but in the meantime, Cuddy was using all of his simping power to try and resist his monstrous urges. However, Darkini was not having any of this, and And by grow, I mean slightly extend his limbs after detaching and reattaching for some reason. Like, okay, the super robot they're homaging does indeed have detachable arms, but I don't think their legs are supposed to come off. Or was this also supposed to be a Steel Jeeg reference? By the way, y'all better have asked Golden Guy for permission, otherwise I think he should just file another lawsuit. And Gynax should probably get in on that, because that middle piece kind of looks familiar. Meanwhile, the Precure were about to take the stage at the Hanamichi Town Festival, where their fans, including Mikoto, were waiting, and also watching on a live stream, even though she was already at the concert. Like, she already has a good view of the stage, and even if she wanted a different angle, the live stream would have at least some time delay, so it's kind of pointless, really. You know, I did set up a bit of a sloppy plot point for later, but we'll get to that. Anyway, speaking of watching things on a tiny screen, the Precure wants to reveal a message from Prune and Marilyn explain where they went. It of course was meant to justify them not wondering where their fairy friends were for at least a couple of episodes. With that, they transformed and made their way onto the stage where I'm sure nothing bad will happen. You know, aside from them learning what their audience's actual demographic was like. Meanwhile, Prue returned their ribbons to the big heart, which of course didn't restore it, much to her disappointment. Yeah, the queen was totally trolling her. To make matters worse, she also picked up that Cuddy was launching an attack because I guess her senses could also cross dimensions. Yeah, even before what's about to happen, this fairy is actually surprisingly strong in certain areas. However, to make her more strong in the more important areas, Marilyn took out her lock and key, and kind of ironically, the fairies did the Space Bunny deal between each other. That said, this did lead to a really nice moment where Prune reiterated her loyalty to Uta for everything she had done for her, and sure, while I found the stuff from the last episode to be a little heavy-handed, there was no questioning that Prune's appreciation for Uta was absolutely justified. In turn, this also made for a strong character moment for Meron, who essentially had to sit back and listen to her precious Netama go on and on about Ta and how she liked her more than anyone, including herself.
Watch this, Lise. You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now.
Yeah, it was a really strong scene that really helped establish what these two were about to lose. Hell, it was made even better by the fact that Prune didn't even hesitate at the thought that she was about to lose her memories of Uta if it meant keeping her safe. A great selfless moment for both fairies, as while Meron didn't reveal what she was sacrificing, I think we can all guess what it is, especially when we look through this very sad first-person perspective for the little fairy. Back with the Precure, they tried to stop Cuddy in a pretty one-sided fight. Yeah, I did some pretty fun little Super Robot references. There wasn't much to their fight, which I'm honestly fine with, as clearly they weren't supposed to be the main event of this episode. BT Dubs, if you want my opinion on these designs, we already did a short mostly talking about them, so go watch that if you want. But otherwise, yep, the 6 Rangers of the season have arrived, Zukyun and Kiss, who, yeah, I could probably say their real names as it's really damn obvious, and yet for some reason, this show was being really coy about it, and even left their credits as question marks.
I'll just do what Superman does.
I swear, if this is another Cure situation where they end up introducing some brand new, unnecessary characters, I'm throwing this stupid piece of plastic into the trash. But yeah, this also turned out to be why Mikoto needed to watch the live stream at the concert, just so that they could establish that these two were also debuting on YouTube. I don't know why they needed Mikoto specifically to see it, as I'm pretty sure they could have just have shown us a bunch of randos also watching the stream elsewhere, but whatever. The two did make a pretty cool entrance, complete with a freaking aisle walk and everything, so of course then came the debut fight and...
That's it?
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful song and everything, and I do like that the two of them are singing together, but really, other than that one punch where just go straight into the finisher? That's honestly kind of disappointing. We all better do something to make up for that.
Whoa, 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 hey.
Okay, y'all get a few points for making me have to use this clip.
Just already!
It certainly stands out a lot more than the rest of the actual finisher animation, which was really just a lesser Love Tenkyoken. Though, with that in mind... With that, Cuddy was saved, and thanked the Precure in the simpiest way possible by saying it was the original trio who saved him, rather than the newbies who completely curb-stomped him due to them rank low on episode runtime. Yeah, President Kokoro, do you not have any sort of rebuttal? But yeah, while he wasn't a great villain overall, this is at least a fine way to let him essentially exit the show. With that though, there's still the little detail of these two totally mysterious superheroines, but the episode ended there, as I think J.J. Abrams wrote this ending. This was a really strong debut episode for the 6 Rangers, other than kind of that fight. Yeah, I don't know if they needed another episode, or more likely some better pacing, but the conclusion to the fight with Cuddy was pretty disappointing after he mostly wailed on the original trio over these 2 episodes. That said, everything leading up to that was still really strong, including all of the character and world building a little bit. Yeah, let's stop being around the bush. Zukyun and Kiss are, for the most part, Prune and Meron. Now, I do say for the most part, as while they are them in Precure forms, their personalities are drastically different for justified reasons. I think by locking away a lot of their memories, they also locked away a good chunk of their personalities, which are formed by them. As a result, Zukyun and Kiss are more like the living embodiments of their wishes to protect the Precure and support the other's wish respectively. In the case of Kiss, it ironically kind of lets Meron live out her actual deepest desires, though again, it's most likely that she's on autopilot, which in a way kind of makes their whole situation tragic. Their wishes are being granted, and yet they're probably not totally in control of their own bodies at this point. And I gotta say, I really like the sort of setup for Six Rangers, where essentially they're using a forbidden power, in this case a monkey's paw, that has massive detrimental effects. It makes for good storytelling, as the characters have to nobly sacrifice something important to them for the sake of others. As a result, it also does justify why these two are way stronger than the original trio because of all those sacrifices, so I'm okay with them defeating Cuddy and everything. I just wish they could have had an actual fight, like maybe they could have ended the episode with them arriving and then finish things off in the next episode, or better yet, maybe just cut out some of the more superfluous plot points in this one, but whatever. All of the character and world building really did help this episode, and does make me intrigued to see what will ultimately become of the fairies, as they might have gotten more than they could have ever wished for. And overall, and aside from those pacing issues, this was a really good debut for the newest members of this team. The only thing missing right now is for them to go all the way and hopefully be all there. Again, this is what happens when you make a deal with that space bunny. Thank you for watching, and if you're here not because of a Faustian deal, then maybe you could also check out some of our other videos on this channel. After this episode, we actually might do another Precure analysis video that we've been considering doing for a while. I won't ruin the surprise, as it might not be totally what you expect, but it should be good regardless. Look forward to Princessian Orchestra tomorrow. Until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and, you looking for your paw? Yeah, I think you could find it in, like, Kira Land or something. Yep, really should do something about losing that thing all the time.